For the first time, the prosecution really got a chance to drill Alec Murdaugh about the details, minute by minute, second by second, of the night of the murder. They're painting him as a privileged man who has a habit of lying until he's confronted with facts that he simply cannot deny. And then he comes up with a new lie to explain that away. None of which Alec Murdaugh actually denies. But what he does deny is that he killed his family. And he did that repeatedly on the stand today.
So you, like you've done so many times over the course of your life, had to back up and make a new story that kind of fit with the facts.
Alec Murdaugh under cross-examination for a second day, several times getting heated.
You dang right I'm consistent about that, because a very short time before that, David Owens is asking me questions and telling me I'm a suspect in the murder of my wife and my child, and asking me about my clothes. You dang right it was important.
Because the only thing you're concerned about is yourself. You're not concerned about giving accurate information to law enforcement.
As he tries to convince the jury he did not kill his wife Maggie and son Paul.
You mean like, did I shoot my wife and my son?
Yes.
No.
Prosecutor Creighton Waters pushing Murdaugh hard over his admission of lying about being at the family dog kennels, where the bodies were found the night of the murders.
Pretty much all of that was lies, wasn't it?
The part about me not being at the kennel was a lie.
Well, also not knowing that Paul went down there, not being sure, that was a lie too, wasn't it? I mean, you're putting some detail on this thing, aren't you?
Everything about me not going to the kennel was a lie.
And you're able to just do that
Mac-
just so easily and so convincingly and so naturally, don't you?
And hammering Murdaugh on what the prosecution is calling his new story.
You never told them all this new story that you've constructed in light of this trial, is that correct?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel. I lied about that.
And at the same time, you also looked at this jury and tried to tell them that you had been cooperative in this investigation.
Other than lying to them about going to the kennel, I was cooperative in every aspect of this investigation.
Very cooperative, except for maybe the most important fact of all, that you were at the murder scene with the victims just minutes before they died.
Also revealed astonishing details we've never heard about just how serious Murdaugh says his opioid addiction was.
So you're taking 60 a day or something like that? I mean,
There were days where I took more than that.
But the majority of the cross-examination Friday focused on what happened June 7th, 2021.
So what you're telling this jury is that it's a random vigilante,
That's
the
your turn.
12-year-old 5'2" people that just happened to know that Paul and Maggie were both at Moselle on June 7th, that knew that they would be at the kennels alone on June the 7th, that knew that you would not be there, but only between the times of 8:49 and 9:02, that they show up without a weapon, assuming that they're going to find weapons and ammunition there, that they commit this crime during that short time window, and then they travel the same exact route that you do around the same time to Alameda. That's what you're trying to tell this jury?
You got a lot of factors in there, Mr. Waters, all of which I do not agree with, but some of which I do.
The prosecution even saying that they didn't feel like Murdaugh's explanation for his alibi lie really held water, something the defense tried to push back on. Believe it or not, Alec Murdaugh is not the defense's final witness, Brianna. We still have more to go when they return to court on Monday. But that means that when that jury goes home this weekend, that all they are going to be able to sit and think about are the past 2 days of Alec Murdaugh taking the stand and testifying on his own behalf.
Yeah, so dramatic the testimony was. Diane, thank you for that report for us from South Carolina. I do want to talk now with attorney and legal affairs commentator Areva Martin about what we've seen here over the last couple of days. Now that the prosecution, Areva, has completed its cross of Murdaugh, do you think they were effective?
They were absolutely effective. We always knew the big issue was going to be how was Alec Murdaugh going to explain away the lie that he told about not being at the kennel. And the prosecutor just hammered him on that lie and basically said, look, you lied about one of the most important facts in this case. So why should the jury believe anything that you've said since you've been testifying? And more importantly, he drew out this issue of this new story. We had a lot of new details that Alec Murdaugh gave today that he had not given to the police, despite saying that he was being very cooperative with them. So I think jurors are going to have a lot to think about. They're going to have to think about whether his testimony was credible. And as we always know, when a defense takes the witness stand and his defendant takes the witness stand in his own defense, there's a probability that you will be hammered by a good prosecutor. And I think that happened today.
Yeah, they did that, and they were focusing extensively on the timeline of these events, the night that his wife Maggie and his son Paul were killed, the discrepancies about Murdoch's whereabouts. Is that enough to sow doubt in a jury?
Every single one of them.
It's so interesting, Brianna. You know, you only need one juror to decide that they like Alec Murdaugh. He's a bigger than life character in this town. His son testified, his remaining son, Buster, testified that his dad was distraught on the night that he discovered his wife and son murdered. And if a juror is sitting there thinking, I don't believe that this man, even though he's a drug addict and even though he has stolen money, even though he has lied, I don't think he would blow the brains out of his younger son and kill his wife. One juror may be convinced that the fact that the son is testifying on his dad's behalf and saying he was distraught, that might be enough for one juror to be a holdout and you not see a conviction in this case.
I wonder what you think about him admitting he lied. You know, on one hand, he's admitting he lied about something, but he's saying he didn't kill his wife and his son. So he's giving something, right? Is that helpful? Does a jury sort of look at that and say, okay, that's actually helpful, he's coming clean about something? Or do they just say, he lied about something, he's definitely lying about other things too?
It's a double-edged sword, Brianna, to be truthful and to be honest with you. Some jurors are going to say, just as you said, well, you know what? He did tell a lie. He didn't come clean when I wanted him to come clean earlier with the police, but he came clean now. And again, I'm not going to, take from that because he's a liar, that he's also a murderer. But others will say, look, this guy lied about something that was so important. And if he really wanted to find out who had killed his wife and his son, he would have been truthful about everything. And even if in that moment he was paranoid because of drug use, he had ample opportunity. He had 18, 19 months to go back to the police and say, look, I made a mistake. I lied about what I said about not being at the kennel. Some folks are going to hold that against them. They're going to say, look, once a liar, always a liar, and we can't believe anything that he said on the witness stand.